All right. Hey, everybody. Scott here with Trilogy Talk. We're at Trilogy Live, episode number 10. Missed last week. Like I think I told you in the last episode, we might be a little bit sporadic here during the summer just because there's so many things that are going on, at least for me, between my day job, family vacations, traveling, trying to still produce videos, things like that. Just it just makes it harder to. It's just harder. I don't really know how to give much more information than that, but I'm excited. Let's see. Kevin Gleason and Chad's up on the board. Chad was our Patreon winner. And just to kind of show my sporadic schedule, usually I do the Patreon supporter drawing tonight, but I didn't even think I was going to have this tonight. But knowing I'm not going to have it next week because I will be at Masters Worlds where I will see Kevin Gleason there. I did it last night, and so that kind of threw me off by day. But Chad Kelly was our winner to one of my Patreon supporters, so I appreciate that as always, Chad. But yeah, that's kind of the next big thing. I'll talk about it a little bit more in detail. But I leave tomorrow morning for Rochester, New York, where a good friend of mine lives, and I'm going to stay with him for a few days on my way to the 2019 PDGA Masters Disc Golf World Championships in Smuggler's Notch, Vermont, at Smuggler's Notch Resort. So very excited. But so I'm going to New York, and my friend Ken calls me up, and he's like, "Hey, since we're going to do so much disc golfing, let's go fishing." And I was kind of like, okay, my friend asked me to do it, and I was like, yeah, why not? Well, I have not been fishing in 25 years, and not since I was in high school with my dad, and I hated fishing in high school, and it's mostly because I don't eat fish. So that was kind of when he even called me, and afterwards I'm like, but I had to go get a non-resident New York fishing license, and after I got the fishing license, which was really cheap, by the way, like $10 for the fishing license. I thought it was going to be more like $50 for a one-day license. But now that I have it, I'm pretty excited. Get to go out on the lake. Might be a beer or two involved. And anybody that knows me, a beer or two is probably about the most that I'm going to have. I'm not a huge drinker, but I do like to have one or two here and there. But just hanging out and then doing some fishing. So, yeah, I thought I was going to go into it more just like just doing it because a friend asked me to, and now I'm pretty excited about it. So we'll see. I've kind of joked with my wife, is like, might be careful. I'll end up coming back and pulling an EMAC and all of a sudden change my whole hobby focus over to fishing and buy a boat. And I actually talked to EMAC about it today, kind of laughing about it, how sometimes it's funny when things in life change. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but I am excited. I don't know what lake we're going to that's near Rochester, but I do know he's up. Rochester isn't very far from the Canadian border right there. And I'm not sure if we'll do any when we're down to Smuggler's Notch down in that area. But we have a pretty unique place down at Smuggler's Notch. I was just showing my wife today. And again, the property that we have has a little lake on it. It has a gazebo with hammocks in it. It's got I believe it's a 6-hole disc golf course. That's only like a couple miles from the course. So I imagine we're going to be pretty engulfed in our house, plus then trying to fit in the time for the tournament itself and all the extra stuff that's going on. And then on top of that, so even though that's going to be a lot of fun, I am going to do my best to try to film while I'm there as well. So we have a lot of good players. I mean, in the MP50, we have Ron Converse, 2-time Grand Masters champion. He will be there, so I'm hoping to be able to do some following footage for him. I will also be doing some Instagramming and videos for the DD Westside Latitude for their direct accounts on top of my Trilogy Talk. Johnny McRae is actually staying in the house with us, so I'm hoping to do some footage with him on the course, but maybe even off the course. I still have to talk to him about that. Of course, I'm hoping to be able to catch up with Kevin Gleason here and do some footage. Jonathan Ray will be out there. There's about 5 other team manufactured sponsored players that I don't personally know, but I would like Tim Shattuck. I don't know him, but I know he's on my list. There's an FP40 woman there from Finland. I don't remember, Natosi, something like that. I don't remember, but I'm looking forward to meeting her. So there's a lot of a lot of players out there that I don't know that I'm hoping to get at least a little bit of coverage, at minimum Instagram. But as we go through, I'm going to do the highlight videos, which I don't, guys, let me know what you guys have been thinking about the highlight videos. I kind of feel like maybe, I don't want to say that's the niche that I'm going to go down a little bit more. I want to keep doing like what I'm doing now, relaying information, talking to you guys, creating the fun videos like we just did the round coverage for the Trilogy Challenge, working on the TD 101 videos, the Dynamic Journey series of stuff. But when I go to tournaments, I like the highlight videos. I just did the one with Chris Clemens for the Kansas City Wide Open, which I'll get in more depth here when I talk about the Kansas City Wide Open. But I enjoy following the players and focusing on not always the good shots, but the personality that's on the course. I've done a few. I did Kevin Gleason at the Glassbone Open. I've done, like I said, I just did Chris Clemens. I've done Rebecca Cox, Sayananda, and I enjoy just those small 3 to 4 minute tidbits of good shots, not always good shots, but a little bit of showing their personality and their composure on the course. And as opposed to, I feel like round coverage, it's not that I can't do round coverage, and I've done a few of them. It's just that there are so many other people that are already doing it that I don't know that it's not that sometimes I feel that I can't compete with that, but it's also, I don't know that I want to compete with that. And I think if I was going to do round coverage, I would probably separate away a little bit more. Like I've thought about just doing round coverage and go to the big tournaments that I'm already going to and filming the lead card of the Pro Masters or the MP50s or FP40s, the ones that don't ever get any real round coverage. FPO gets some, but not nearly as much as the MPO, not as much as everybody would like to see. But again, so many other people are already out there doing it. I'm not sure that it's something that I need to do or want to do. Disc reviews, I like doing disc reviews, but again, there's so many people that are out there. So unless I can come up with a creative way to do it, I don't know that it's necessarily a focus. The only positive with disc reviews is as I go forward, if I'm only doing disc reviews for discs that are coming out now, it's not real hard to keep up with it. Plus, I think there's a fan base that still likes different points of views. And I've had a couple people have told me that they like my point of view, or my throwing style maybe relates to them a little bit more than some of the other people. So I'm not backtracking, going back to old molds or anything like that. But yeah, just kind of finding my niche in the whole videography world, the YouTube world that everybody seems to like. And you've heard me probably say this before, but initially Trilogy Talk was created as a podcast, and probably generically I call it a podcast, but it's really more of a variety show, and not in the sense of like old school, like Saturday Night Live or old school where they're doing all kinds of skits and dramas and stuff, but it's just more variety in the sense that I do whatever comes to my mind that I think makes sense to create a video about, like the TD 101, the hand-eye mystery, the box unveils, which I have one of those too, that I don't know if I'll get knocked out before Smuggler's Notch, probably not, but I do have it. And so anyways, I like that niche, and I haven't quite followed what or figured out where I want to go. But on that, I do like the Trilogy Live. And so I'm going to do a push to everybody who's watching this now and to share it. And anybody who watches it after the fact is I am currently at 310 subscribers. It's a far shot, but I want to get to the 1,000 subscriber mark. So if you are watching these videos and you haven't subscribed, please help me out and subscribe. You can turn notifications off if you don't want to see everything that comes through. But the 1,000 mark, what that does is, like when I'm going to Masters Worlds, I can't do a Trilogy Live next week because it's not as easy for me to set up, especially as we're traveling. But I could have done some kind of Trilogy Live on the course, maybe following a group as I'm walking around, kind of like when you see different people doing vlogs. But you can't do YouTube Live without 1,000 subscribers. And then there's other perks and things like that that come along with that. But one of the biggest ones is, as I keep doing this, as the season goes on and I travel, I want to be able to keep bringing these things to you, but I can't. So I know it's a 700-person push. It's a long shot. I don't know that I'll even get there this year, but obviously I need the help of you guys. So if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. If you know other disc golfers that are out there, please share it with them. Help me get that closer up there. Maybe by the end of the year, we can get that. So as we get into the 2020 season, we can improve and help get this information out there more and have fun and seeing the Trilogy world from a different angle. So anyways, that's kind of my push. I've pushed Facebook and I've pushed Instagram. I know and Patreon, and I know I talk about YouTube, but YouTube's numbers have never really bothered me until just recently, where it's kind of been more of, oh, I didn't know I was going to have those restrictions. And I could go to like Facebook Live, but I do like consistency. I like trying to keep everything in the same place. In the YouTube Live, or at least YouTube, it documents it and puts it into a folder so you or I can go back and watch that stuff later, especially if it's a point of resource. There's something that is in those videos that, which is what I like to do, is establish history and show what's going on so you can go back and look at it. So, all right, guys. So I'm leaving tomorrow for Masters Worlds. So that's what I have going on. The last week, so I don't know where you guys are all at. And so let me know, those of you guys are on there. What did you guys do last weekend? What was your tournaments like? Did you play any tournaments? Trilogy Challenge? How did you do? Ratings just released the last week. And actually, I'm going to talk about ratings for a second. I'm kind of I don't know what I am. So ratings just came out sometime last week. And I know I don't play a ton, but I'm a 937, 938 rated player. And I shot a 1030 rated one round. Just on this last rating update. And I was kind of excited, like, oh, I'm curious to see what that's going to do. You would think if you have one round, 1030 in there, that counts. Your rating would go up. My rating didn't move whatsoever. So that means, in my mind, statistically, or however the formulas for ratings are created, I'm not positive on all of it, but in my mind, what it means is I had so many bad ratings that the 1030 rated round put my average back to the 937, 938. The 1030 rated round was not good enough to even raise me up a point. Wasn't expecting like a huge bump, like I was going to bump to 950, but I thought I might get closer to 938, 940, at least a point. I got nothing. And I just don't understand that. That was really discouraging. But however, it was my last PDGA round, so I guess I can go into this weekend saying that I'm on a streak of I have shot a 1030 rated round. That's the streak. I'm going into Masters Worlds, shooting like, all right, let's stay on that 1,000 train so I can catch Kevin Gleason, who's promoting on that he finally hit the 1,000. Super congratulations. I know you've been playing really well this year, been doing a lot to promote as well, but it seems like you've been consistently up on the top 3, top 1 and 2 actually is what I feel like I've been seeing the most from you. So I'm pretty excited to see that. That's pretty awesome. But it doesn't change the fact that my 1030 was not even enough to move me up 1 point, which is very odd. So all right. But what did you guys do last weekend? So last weekend for me, well, go through the negative is I didn't get to do a ton last weekend. Just because I had a funeral to go to last weekend, so I missed part of my weekend. But on the Friday, which was pretty much my whole weekend, is the Kansas City Wide Open was happening here in Kansas City, which is where I live, and that was a lot of fun. I hung out at Waterworks, which is the first day for the MPO, FPO divisions, and I spent the morning following Missy Gannon, and I did a bunch of coverage with her and couple of the locals, and I had always planned that I was only going to probably do the first 12 holes for her, and I have some footage. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with that footage just yet, but right around the time I was finishing, I was trying to decide which MPO player should I follow, and sometimes doing this with these highlight videos have been hit or miss, where I could have followed Robert McCall. He's team manager for the Trilogy companies, and I don't know that I've seen a ton from him, but I at least public footage. I think there is some out there. I just haven't seen it or not aware of it. So I thought about doing something different with him. I actually did a practice round at AJ Risley the day before, which I have some coverage that I'll be working with him at some point. Hopefully get to work on that. Again, I'm getting ready to get real busy, so I'm not sure when or how I'm going to put that footage out. And he was also on the Jomez card, and it's not that I couldn't be following the Jomez since I'm not doing round coverage. I just feel I don't want to be in those guys' way. They're real good, and last thing they need is another camera person who wants to be a couple feet off the tee box to get the good shots. So I decided not to go with AJ. And then totally blanking out who else was out there. But ultimately, I chose Chris Clemens. He's a local Kansas City guy, and it's someone I haven't done a ton of following. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to follow Chris. And it was a good decision because except for Paul's 11 down, and at the time going into the clubhouse, he shot an 8 down, and that was the hot round of the tournament. And if you haven't seen that highlight video, check it out. But he was on fire, just putting, driving, just doing real well. And that's always been a real hit or miss of who do I follow. And sometimes I follow somebody and I get nothing. I mean, it's not even that they'll play bad, just all their putts are 15 feet or 20 feet, or even usually for pars. If they're 15, 20-foot putt birdies, then I'll do highlight combinations between the drive and the putt to show off the birdie. And sometimes on the pars, I'll do that. A lot of times you can't even really tell the shots. But the little hint to when I do highlight videos, if all you see is drives, that means they didn't putt good. And if all you see is putts, that means they didn't drive good. So sometimes you might see some good putts, but you won't always know, are those putts for 2, 3, 4, 5? And it's okay. You don't need to know. It's not highlighting how I finished a hole or how they performed on a hole. It's highlighting the actual shot itself. So whether the putt's for a 2 or a 5, yes, it does make a difference in the grand scheme of knowing. But for the entertainment value of seeing what's on the video, I don't think it changes a ton. So anyways, so I got to follow Chris. And then, of course, Mr. Paul McBeth teed off an hour and a half after Chris, I think, and tore up with an 11 down and ultimately won the tournament by, I don't even remember, but 15 strokes, 10 strokes. I'm going to look here real quick. So give me a second here. I'm pulling up my screen. And I did notice that Jomez put out the video where McBeth threw the hole, which is Wyco's, well, it's Wyco hole 3, but for the KC Wide Open, it's hole 1. It's like a 555-foot shot over some trees. And I've seen a handful of people do it, but you don't see it very often by any means. And he threw a Kong, I believe, which I'm not sure exactly what that disc does, but throws it over the top, huge, nice flex over the trees, comes right back and just parks the basket. If you haven't seen that video, check it out on Jomez. But it is just a phenomenal shot, and the video itself just doesn't do it justice either. I mean, again, I've seen it done a couple times by some locals, but it is a shot that if they did 100 times, they may get one out of it. It's probably more common for people to throw a roller to get it up that close to the basket. It's just very well protected by trees. There's no, I wouldn't say there's not a clean line, but it's a line you really have to shape shift if you're not going over the top of trees. So again, just it doesn't do justice to the video. It's super impressive. But yeah, he won by 8 strokes. And it looks like he had the hot round all 3 rounds, winning just under $1,300. But 1082, 1064, 1038. And still very impressive. I know someone like Paul McBeth coming to town is always super exciting. And actually, slight change of subject, but I saw something earlier today that somebody posted about is Paul the Tiger Woods of disc golf. And they're not talking about greatest of all time or anything like that, but someone had made the comment of, well, Tiger Woods kind of re-evolutionized golf, at least in the modern world, of media. It kind of rejuvenated golf in the eyes of a lot of younger players, where prior to that, golf was known to be more of an older person's sport. And Tiger Woods brought the young people back into it. So this Paul McBeth, I kind of think is not the same. It's not that he brought it back into the eyes of younger people because it was known as an older sport. But I think it brought it to the social media world. And it's impressive how one person like Paul, I mean, there's a lot of really popular people out there, and you have Nate Sexton and James Conrad and Ricky Wysocki and Johnny McRae, and a lot of people that have a really good fan base or do a ton with social media. Eric Oakley and Eric McCabe and Zach Melton, Paige Pierce, and those from the Trilogy side. But I feel like Paul kind of revolutionized even the social side of it, of what people see. And it's kind of crazy because he doesn't do a ton. But if you look at his followings, I mean, he is just way up here where everybody else is way down here. Even at the high end, everybody else is down. And he's just got a presence. No matter what he's doing on the course or what he's doing on social media, people want to know what he's doing. And he could probably go on and talk about a video or make a video of him at a drive-through or at like a Chipotle or something. I'm trying to think of something maybe I think he'd eat. I don't think he'd eat McDonald's kind of thing. But and it would probably get 100,000 views. It'd probably get another 10,000 subscribers or X amount of or so many more likes for something has nothing to do with him, has nothing to do with disc golf, but people just love him. And I do. Paul is one of my favorite players. I've known Paul for a very long time, since before he was sponsored with DD as a retailer, before DD was a manufacturer. So, all right. So going over to the board here real quick. I haven't really checked up on that. I've had some things to talk about. I totally forgot to see Kevin's talking about Father's Day. I totally forgot last weekend was even Father's Day. Real weird weekend. So happy belated Father's Day to everybody who's out there watching it. Kevin's saying he played in unsanctioned doubles with my wife as my partner, and his daughter was with him, and that is super awesome. I cannot get my wife to play for anything. But I think I killed it. The very first time I took my wife disc golfing, I took her out to Waterworks Disc Golf Course in Kansas City, and it took her like 13 shots to match my first shot. And after that, she just like, I don't get it. I don't want to throw. In the 8 years we've been together, she's played a few times, but I bet if we took every hole she's ever played, she has not completed even a half a round. So she usually gets 1 or 2 holes in every once in a while where she wants to be supportive. But it's super awesome when you can get your family out there. But Father's Day, weekends in general, spending time with your family, going to Smuggler's Notch, I'm super excited about it. But the hardest part about it is knowing that I'm going to be gone for slightly over a week, and I don't get this, even though there's nothing majorly going on, just being a home of, or being a part of that family routine. But then my positive is when I come back, which is on July 2nd, I then leave for Phoenix, Arizona on July 5th to go see my daughter. And as a news break, in September, my oldest daughter is going to be expecting her first child. So I've kind of said that does not make me a grandfather. It just means that I have a daughter who's going to have a kid. But I don't know if that's just me being not wanting to accept that yet. But I have accepted it. It's pretty excited. That's why I'm going down there to visit her. Except that I just noticed today when I was looking at it that at least going into this week, it is supposed to be like 109 degrees, give or take. So, all right. See Phil Cannon on the board. I saw Riley on the board earlier. What's up, guys? If you're still there. See Jim's on the board. He didn't play at all last week, but he lost his Opto X fuse, which is a sad day. The good news right now, Jim, as opposed to a lot of discs, the Opto X fuse is still available, and you can still get it. So speaking of that, I'm sure this topic has been exhausted, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. But just because I have that little bit of insight or have been a part of many things with DD, if you have not heard, because you've been hiding underneath a rock, Dynamic Discs last week. I'm trying to actually find it on my board here real quick. Blah, blah, blah. Dynamic Discs announced that they were discontinuing 12 molds in the Dynamic Disc lineup. At some point, Latitude and Westside will also be announcing molds that they are discontinuing, but for now, Dynamic Discs is the only one. If you have not heard, the Proof, the Gavel, the Evidence, the Patrol, the Thief, the Witness, the Renegade, the Freedom, the Criminal, the Suspect, the Warrant, and the Slammer are the ones that are being taken out. Now, for those who haven't caught it, those 12 molds account for less than 10% of all Dynamic Disc sales. So even though it seems like there's discs in there that have some popularity, I would argue that those numbers indicate they don't. So like I've seen a lot of people on Facebook who talk about how can they get rid of the Suspect? The Suspect's super popular. Well, again, the numbers indicate it's not. Or at least it indicates that they don't get the sales. Not that it's not popular, but they don't get the sales. You know, the problem with like a Suspect is a Suspect being on a mid-range, you don't use it a ton, but it still takes up the space. And actually, out of all the discs that they're being discontinued, the one I'm the most surprised about are probably like the Proof and the Gavel, because those are the easy to use line, and not so much even for the everyday, but just for their big box stores like Academy and Dick's Sporting Goods and things like that. So unless they're going to produce those separately, maybe just for those, but those are pretty big pieces of the puzzle for Dynamic Disc. So I'm not really sure how they're going with that. I personally bagged the Evidence and the Renegade. But I was just in Emporia today, and I can tell you, if any of you guys are out there and worried about losing any of those discs, that they have tons of those discs. If you really love a disc, order a couple, have them on hand. But more than likely, if you can have 5 of those, unless you're just losing discs all the time, you're probably going to have a couple years worth if you just buy 3 to 5 of one of those discs, which again, they have thousands of them still, probably a couple years worth. But you buy your few just in case you're afraid of them not being there when it's time. And more than likely, by the time you would even come close to exhausting those molds, there's a good chance your game will have changed. They're not for everybody. Some games are the same, but I mean, as long as I've been playing, my arm speed hasn't changed a ton, but my game has changed enough that those molds changed for me. So again, I would not be worried about those 12 molds. Which ones have gone? More than likely in the next year, a couple years, they're going to end up almost replenishing those molds with just whatever new ones, which, I mean, those are different conversations. I'm not sure I totally understand how everything works, but I do know growth, and I think it's pretty exciting to see what's going to happen with it, even though there's some negative or non-excitement for knowing that maybe your favorite disc is going away. But again, it's really not going away anytime soon. I think what that does is it opens up the door for more production for some of the discs that we're doing. Like right now, that Raider is pretty much 24/7 on their production. They're going through a lot of discs, just trying to do different things. However, on that note, I never want to talk bad about anything that DD does, but it does not mean I always understand or agree. And hold on, where are you at? I just had you up. So all these discontinued discs to make room for stuff. And I know this isn't DD, but we're still talking production in all 3 of them. They release, coming up next week, the VIP Air Destiny. Nothing against the Destiny. I know nothing about the Destiny. I am sure there are some of you guys out there who love the Destiny. But I guess the Destiny in my mind is probably one of those discs I know very little about. I hear very little about, which makes me think that its popularity is probably not accounted for in the high percentages, but they're still taking the time to fill the production schedule with a disc that probably isn't popular. Again, I'm guessing. I don't know the numbers on it. Maybe for all I know that it does have good numbers. Like I think of the Air Sheriff. The Air Sheriff, I know some people love. I don't feel like it's in their top sellers, but they came out with the Air Sheriff, and people like that disc. So they made it in other blends of plastic because it had enough popularity. But I think the Destiny, I feel like, is even lower than that. So they created that. But But yeah, so those 12 molds, again, I'm not 100% certain how I feel about all of those, but again, I'm not part of that business. I'm just a fan like you. I'm just trying to support and help grow that Trilogy world. And we have those people in place to make those decisions. And so far, those decisions have ultimately been pretty good. I think the growth of those Trilogy companies, Dynamic Disc, Westside, Latitude, have grown, even when they do things that we don't always understand or that we always like. So I'm going to trust that those decisions are made in our best interest. I'm just not always sure, just like everybody else. So, but all right. So on discs, we have new releases actually coming out. Looks like they come out as of Friday. Nothing too special, but still some new things. They have the Westside Disc Beach Party, which looks like it's coming out in the Regio Burst Harp and the VIP Gatekeeper. It looks to be maybe Westside's artist series. They don't say that, but it's kind of like the artist series, like they just did with the Lone Raider and the Judge. So we got that, the Air Destiny, the Latitude, a Retro Burst Diamond, which the Diamond is probably one of the discs I always promote to younger players, guys and girls alike, just because it is such an easy controllable disc that is understable. But now we have the Retro Burst Explorer, which I'll admit I've kind of deterred away from the Explorer a little bit. But I still would like to check it out in the retro. I'm not always a fan of the low grade plastic. I think sometimes it gets a little bit slick, but I think it can come in handy when you're playing in wet conditions, sweaty conditions, things like that. So yeah, I'd like to try that. And jump off the wagon here again. You know, the disc that I've been super excited about, and I think the more I throw it, the more excited I get about, is the Vandal. So I've had the Vandal since the prototype. I threw it I did a review on the Vandal. I've got a couple prototypes of the Vandals. I enjoyed it. And since the day came out, I was like, oh, I like this disc. I like this disc. And then we did the Trilogy Challenge, which I just did the round coverage with Travis Trober, Bo Saigon, and Ava Meyer here just the other day. And you see me throwing it there. And even after I threw it there, I commented on it. I threw it well. I could throw it a fair amount of power, and it just stayed very straight. I threw it on an Annie. It held the line. I slowed down, threw it on a hyzer, held the line. And I walked away, and even in that video, I talked about how much I liked it. And then the next day or so, I was out of the league, and someone was throwing, and kind of like what I always do, I saw him throwing. I go, I bet they'll like the Vandal. So I put one in my bag, and I gave it away. And then I had an extra Vandal, and these are just Trilogy Challenge Vandals, not my prototype Vandals. And I have my prototype Vandal, but then I ran across another Trilogy Challenge one that I had. So I put it in my bag just this week. And I played League on Monday and Tuesday here in Kansas City and Olathe, and then, well, both of them, I guess, are in Olathe. And man, that disc is just awesome. So now as I'm getting ready to go to Smuggler's Notch, I'm thinking, I only have two. I have the prototype and my Trilogy Challenge one that I'm willing to take with me. And I was like, I haven't looked enough. If there's water. I know there's woods and stuff, and I know there's a little bit of water, but I was like, oh man, I need more of those. And when I was in Emporia today, I tried to buy Trilogy Challenge packages, just extra ones, just so I could get the Vandal, but they wouldn't sell them to me because I already ran my Trilogy Challenge, and they don't sell just one or two of the packs, just so you know, in case you did not know that. But man, that thing just stays straight, and it glides for days. There's a hole that we have that I would throw the Convict. And the Convict I'm throwing, and it stays super straight, and it fades just in time. It's the perfect distance. So I was like, oh, let's try the Vandal. The Vandal held the same line and just kept going. It wasn't even thinking about coming back by the time I hit the tree that my Convict normally would cut in front of. And it doesn't feel like it should go that much further, but that thing just goes. And even when I just crank on it, yes, I can get it to turn, but it doesn't turn over into like a roller or anything like that. Not unless I'm throwing it like 2 feet off the ground where it has no time to flex out. But you put any normal height on it, 10, 15 feet in the air, I think it has time to come out, at least in a normal type of wind. Yes, if you're throwing into a headwind, and I'm talking about throwing it flat. I'm traditionally a flat thrower, maybe a little bit of hyzer. I rarely throw anything on it and hyzer. But I know a lot of people have been talking about the Trilogy Challenge discs and hyping up the Vandals. But I feel like right now that Vandal is, like the greatest thing since sliced bread recently. I can't remember another disc that I've been as excited about. There's a lot of discs that have come out over the years that I'm excited about for the moment. I do a review and I enjoy it, but really I'm a creature of habit. I mean, I've been playing for 20 some years, and just because I think a disc is really good doesn't mean that I like to change it out of my bag. I'll admit the Gatekeeper. I like the Gatekeeper a lot, but I love the Vandal a lot. And I've got a couple beat up verdicts. And I got a couple beat up verdicts. And I see no reason to take my verdicts out of my bag. The Gatekeeper is very similar to my beat in verdicts, but I have those. And maybe someday when my verdicts are gone, then I'll transfer over into the Gatekeeper. But there's no reason for me to take those verdicts out just to put the Gatekeeper in, even though I'll talk about it. But the Vandal, I feel like, fits in my bag now. I'm not sure even if it necessarily replaces anything. I thought maybe it would replace the Maverick or the Convict. And it's just longer variation. It's a little bit more overstable than my Maverick. I would say it's very close to my Convict, but longer. Maybe even closer. So maybe even closer like my Convict X that I have. But it's just longer, and I can just really crank on it. And even my Convicts, I can get those to turn over a little bit easier than I could for the Vandal. So I often think these new discs come out, and a lot of people swap them out because they are new or the latest and greatest, or they think it does something better than what they already have in their bag. But I've learned a long time ago that a lot of the new discs don't necessarily are better than what's in my bag. They might have, not unless they fill a specific hole in your bag or in your shot. But yeah, so that's the stuff on the Vandal. So kind of made me deter a little bit. But if you have not played a Trilogy Challenge or get the Vandal, I know I'm looking forward to September. I'm thinking of playing another Trilogy Challenge just to get the Vandal or going online. But I know everybody's looking for the Vandal right now. But anyways, also coming on release this next week is Dynamic Discs offering out blank white discs specifically for tie-dyers like Patrick Manjaris with Custom Stacks, who is one of our sponsors of the shows. But it's kind of neat that they're now selling the discs blank, so people can spin dye them or tie-dye them. But they're not just blank, they're bottom stamped. So I think that still allows DD to add that little bit of branding that they want, but allows any normal person who wants to try tie-dyeing doesn't have to buy a large amounts. Not sure if these will ever be available on the retail side. Right now, they're only available on the wholesale side. So, but then a whole bunch of shirts. Those are all the new things that are coming out. I see just since I've been doing this, I have got a new subscriber. Thank you very much, Danny. So I'm up to one more. Woo! I'm at 311. Hey, isn't that a band? 311. So, all right. Looking up at my screens up on the top there. Sorry if it looked like I was looking away from you. Checking out some of my conversations. So we talked about the molds, the new releases. Have you guys seen the TD 101 videos that I've been doing? I'm trying to get some feedback on that. I did the video on the scheduling and the kind of the why. My next one that I'm working on is the mental preparation. So I'm going to come up with a video for TD 101 part 3 called mental preparation. And even though I'm going to create the video, I thought I would kind of go through here and give you the synopsis of what that's about. And so for those who don't know, again, I run a lot of tournaments, and I run a lot of large tournaments, World Championships, C tiers, series, A tiers, B tiers, virtually everything. I think I'm up to about 140 PDGA events that I've TD'd over time. And not to say that everything I say is the right way to do it. It's just the way I know how to do it. And I've had the success for it. But really, I probably should have started my series with this. But someone just asked me after I ran my tournament, my Heritage Hills tournament 2 weeks ago, of my thinking when I run a tournament. How do I prep a successful tournament before you even start? And a lot of it really comes down to mental preparation. And I have this quote or this motto, tagline, whatever you want to call it, that I kind of tell everybody, but I really think about a lot of it. And it's wait on the player. Never make the player wait on me. And what that means is be so far ahead in your preparation that the player never sees you do anything. They're not waiting for you to do anything. By the time they get there, it's done. And the hardest thing to do with that is maybe the awards. But even that, if you get good enough at it, or you got the staff or things in place, you can make it to where people don't have to wait. Sometimes it's a little bit harder on awards just because you're waiting for that last card to come in. And if they're the first card in, they feel like they've been waiting an hour for awards, which isn't your fault. But other than that, you can pretty much be ahead of everything. So when you tell them registration goes up, have it out ahead of time, 90 days ahead of time. I'm not a big fan of having them out like way further out, more than 90 days, unless it's a big tournament like an A tier or something. You're going to have maybe more than 144 players, more than 200 players. But have that registration up. Have way a month in advance your whole locations as much as you can. You can always put the disclaimer, things can change, but try to have that pieces of information out before someone even asks you those questions. Now, again, yes, someone's going to ask you because they're too lazy to look. I know on my Facebook event pages, a lot of times I create like an FAQ pin post, the very first thing that answers as much as possible. You know, what time is check-in? What course is check-in? The directions. What's in the players package, which I never disclose the players package. So in that question, I'll say players packages will be determined or disclosed the day of the event, so people know. And if someone asks me online, what's in the players package, I'll just highlight that and say, give them that answer. And then I point them to that link so they can see everything else. So hopefully them or other people can see and get that direction. You're always going to have that one or two people who are going to ask you the same question that was just posted 2 posts below. But it's having those things set up. If you're promoting artwork, you're doing any kind of fundraising, you know, having that stuff ready before the player asks. Registration or morning of. If I say that my check-in starts at 8, I am typically ready and set by 7:15 at the latest. I like it when I get those super early birds that come through who are ready. I can check them in before they're even ready to check in. And really, one of the things that does is it gives you the ability to make sure if you've forgotten anything or messed anything up, you've gone through the process of check-in. So especially if you're doing anything with any kind of elaboration, like multiple players package items, or, you know, if it's just, hey, I see you. All right, good. You're here. You know, things like that. But if you're checking off, I got your players package, I've got a shirt, how about ace pool? Do I got a waiver? Things like that. The earlier you do it before you have a line, it gives you the ability to fine tune that before you have it. But also then if you start getting people before 8 and everybody starts getting there at 7:30, 7:45 kind of things, depending on when your check-in time is, you've already eradicated that line. So when everybody else gets there at 8, the bulk of it's done. If you wait till, if you have a check-in, say 8 to 8:30, 8:45, 9 o'clock, you've got 200 people that have to come through there. You're going to be so busy during that hour that by the time you clear up, it's time to start. And if you have anything you have to back up and check, such as you get people who didn't check in, so you have to make sure they're not at the top of the board, or you've got 2 or 3 people who haven't checked in the same division, making sure they're not on the same card. So you're not risking the chance of, if you have a foursome, that 2 of those people that didn't check in now make your card a twosome. Now you have to shuffle. So you've created a timetable, but now you're having to potentially back that up or slow your process because you were so busy up to that moment. But by starting earlier, you gave yourself a gap to get things fixed just in case, but you've allowed, you've expanded that window without everybody else knowing about it. So that's kind of a big thing. That's that mental preparation. It's being prepared for lunch, you know, or scores or trophies and awards. It's having all of that done before those cards come in, understanding what's going to happen. So when that first card comes in, you may not know exactly when lunch is, but you're prepared. You can start communicating. And whether you write it down, you post it on a board, or you just say it out loud as people are coming through, it's, again, you're kind of answering that question before the player asks the questions. Again, I'll get 100 questions still, so you're not going to be able to answer all of them. But the ones that you did answer it for, you are going to look a lot more efficient and a lot more prepared. And that's really a big part of the tournament. And that's just tournament day. Again, there's so many other things going ahead when you're ordering players packages. Get them there the week before the tournament. Try not to have things show up the day or two before the tournament, just because it just adds more to what you have to think about going to a tournament. Again, I'm talking about tournaments that have some wheels that to it, some pieces that move. If you're just running a super simple tournament and no players package or a one disc players package, you check in and that's it, that's fine. But even the most simple, the more efficient, the more ahead of the game you can be, the better it will be. Scorecards. One of my biggest pet peeves, and I've said this before, is showing up to a tournament and scorecards aren't done. Even as a TD, if I see him filling them out that morning, I think, why are you filling these out now? Now, and most of my tournaments are full the night before, so I can make those boards ahead of time. And I understand that some tournaments are doing registration up until that morning. That's fine. But then have all of the stuff filled out. If you have any kind of registration, have it ahead of time, but be prepared. Isolate that stuff a little bit. Understand your surroundings to being prepared. Everybody wants to look at that board while you're creating it. I usually try to isolate it just to keep people out of your hair, just to have less distractions that are coming at you, because last thing you want to do is mess up on a board with 90 people and then cards are already out, and then you're missing somebody, or you've put someone in the wrong area that you didn't want to. Really, you can't put someone in the wrong area, really, but it might not make everybody happy, but sometimes just things happen. But again, the more ahead of time, I strongly recommend that pre-registration. I highly encourage it, just so you can be further ahead. Set up the tools and resources so you can be further ahead. Like I said, that's that motto, is wait on the player, never make the player wait on me. I should make a shirt for that. No, I shouldn't. But it's something that I've kind of lived by. It's what I feel like has been some of the successes and a lot of the best tournaments that I've ever been to. That's the way it is. When I show up to a tournament, their banners are already up, their boards are already up, everything is set. I don't like having people when showing up and I'm trying to check people in, but I'm also trying to manage a crew, or I'm trying to get water out while check people in, or I'm trying to put out retail discs, or I'm trying to put up banners or signs. If I'm the only one doing it, I will sometimes get out of the tournament at sunrise at 5, 6 in the morning, even if check-in's at 8, just to make sure all of that stuff is done. Yes, some of that stuff you can do even after first round starts, but that takes away from the energy coming into the tournament. One of the most exciting parts that people don't even realize is when they show up to a tournament, is when they show up and it's a tournament. It looks like a tournament. It looks like they're at someplace special, whether it's the dressings, or sometimes it's just a full parking lot. But adding those banners, and when they walk up and your tournament central and they see the lines and all the stuff, that makes them feel like they're somewhere special. If they show up and it just looks like you're going to a glorified league, and everything gets set up after the first round starts, because that's a very common way I've seen it, is they'll never even notice all the extra little things you've done. It might look good for pictures after the fact, but their impression has already been set. So, but anyways, that's ultimately, and hell, that might be the whole video that you just saw, TD 101. It won't probably be that long, but that is some of the stuff I'm going to talk about on the mental preparation for TD 101. So, all right, well, we're at just under an hour, so I'm going to start trying to speed things up a little bit. I got a couple little things just to kind of remind people, but if you haven't seen on Instagram, I've been doing the dynamic journey. And the dynamic journey is just showing the list of all the different discs as they've come out. But one of the things I've been trying to do is establish the histories. Really, I've kind of been working on the history pieces of dynamic discs, of not only a disc that has come out, but when that disc came out, whether it's by mold or by plastic, things like that. I actually had a really cool idea today. I was traveling with Derek Brooker, and it might have been his idea even, but we were talking about, let's talk about the dynamic journey. And on Instagram, I post a picture and I put the wording on the bottom and the little pieces of information. But I also then take that picture and I separate it into a separate file, just the picture of the disc. And the idea initially I was going to do is I was going to make a whole big poster of every disc, basically in my collection, but every disc that's come out, and then do it like if you've ever seen in schools where they put all the students' pictures, and then it somehow silhouettes into like their school logo. Well, I was thinking about doing that to where it's silhouetted into like the DD logo, since I collect DD. And one of us had the idea of like creating, you should make a flight chart, just prototypes. So maybe for our exhibit for the Glassbone Open for 2020, that's what I was doing, make a big 24 by 36 flight chart. But in the spot where it says like trespass, I put the prototype for the trespass along with the years and the documentation. So anyways, I just thought that was a really cool idea with this whole dynamic journey thing. I've kind of feel like I've been almost like the self-appointed historian for Dynamic Discs. Since I've been there for the beginning, I've got virtually every email that Dynamic Discs has ever sent out as a manufacturer well above, and I've documented not everything, but a lot of things, and more specific to the base pieces of Dynamic Discs, molds, and plastics. All the little special things that have come out, like this Lone Raider things, even though I may collect it, I haven't documented necessarily when that came out because that's just a stamp. It's not the part of the mold. But I know when bags have come out. I know when things have been discontinued. I know when plastic variations have come out. The TFRs have probably been the harder one because TFRs don't really tell me when they're coming out. I know some of them because I run so many tournaments and I've paid attention, but I might not have. Like I think of like the Lucid Warden. The Warden's been out for years, but the Warden actually didn't come out in stock until just in the last year or so, 2 years. But it was on Lucid for like 3 years in TFR. I just don't know when the very first one came out. So those are things that I have to work on. So the other day, I don't know if you saw Jeremy Rusko and Bobby Koo, Daddy Slick Breeze. They did their monthly review, and they were building up the hype on the Raider. And they were making everybody, not making everybody, but they were having everybody stay after the fact and to get the cool information on the Raider. And the Lucid Raider is coming out here really soon in buyback stores as a double stamp, which I think is pretty cool. I think I'll be pretty excited for that disc to come out as a regular one. I know that in July next month at some point for my Midwest Amateur Championship, here is a Trilogy Talk exclusive. Hopefully it's in time, but I will have the Moonshine Raider. I have not even promoted that anywhere until just right now. So if you think you would like a Moonshine Raider, even if you're not going to be a part of the Midwest Amateur Championships, send me a message and we will see what we can do for that. So, but yeah, Lucid Raider, that's pretty hyped. With the US doubles that's starting up, it's kind of revamped the Raider again because they are now including the Biofusion Raider into that. I think there's people that are going to do the doubles just to get the Biofusion Raider, which is crazy because there's, well, it's not really. If you're paying, it's $40 a person, $80 for the team. It's basically $20 for the Raider, $20 for the Pioneer. And then, of course, if you get far enough into the top 3 or further, you get your credits of those various things too. So, all right. What's up, Travis? Travis Schrober's up on the board. Looks like Greg Curtin just popped up on the board. Yeah, Greg, I'm excited. The Raider's been out so far, and I liked it. I don't know that it replaced anything in my bag, but I like the SE Raider more specifically because it was a little less stable than the other Raiders. So I'm curious if the Biofusion Raider will be less. And speaking then of understable variation, I just saw Jonathan Ray post about the AM Worlds Pennsylvania, one of the one-rounders. They're going to have a Fusion X Defender. For those who don't know, Fusion X is supposed to be the less stable equivalent, where Lucid X is more overstable. Fusion less, Lucid over more. So a less stable defender sounds pretty exciting to me as well. Again, I'm not sure that it's better than some of the stuff I have in my bag, or at least beat in, but I would definitely still be curious to try it. So if any of my fans out here who are watching happen to be at that AM Worlds in Pennsylvania this year and want to pick up a Fusion X Defender, I will gladly buy it from you, but it would save me the time of having to hunt one down just to put into my collection. All right. Chad's on the board talking about looking forward to finding or trying out the Bio Raider. Him and his buddy Jack Lupartis just signed up for the doubles here in Kansas City. Travis is commenting to himself about how slow he feels like he looks in the Trilogy Challenge round coverage video that I just put out the other day. And Travis, I would say you are a slow thrower. You're a very smooth thrower. Not slow as in taking your time per se, but smooth, relax. You definitely aren't jerky when you throw. You don't have a fast like whoop around, but you throw every bit as far as anybody in our skill set, and with no problem. So I think that smooth works pretty good for you. But so, all right. Normally at the end of the show, I do the Patreon giveaway, which I did last week, for which we gave away this Lucid Maverick custom stacks tie-dye, which went to CAK on the board, Chad Kelly. Congratulations, Chad. Chad was my very first Patreon supporter, so he has been a big part. But if you would like to be included in the future giveaways, check out patreon.com/Trilogy Talk. For as little as $1 a month, you can support Trilogy Talk and be involved into up to 4 drawings per month. And as always, which we talked about at the beginning, for those who tuned in late, one of my next big pushes is going to be YouTube subscriptions, because I would like to get to the 1,000 mark. That 1,000 mark allows it to where I can do YouTube live. So when I travel to places such as Smuggler's Notch or other places in the future, I can continue to bring you guys live content through YouTube. I like YouTube better than Facebook because it documents in time where I'm at, where Facebook gets lost in translation into all the other posts that take place throughout Facebook. So pictures and different stuff. But I can't do any of that. I have to be at 1,000. Currently, I'm at 311 now. So it's got a long way. So it'll probably take me through the year to get there. But if you are not already subscribed, but you are watching, please subscribe. Even if you don't want the notifications or don't want to see all the little things that I post out, the subscription helps me a ton. And turning off the notification makes it so you don't have to get everything. But if you do want to see all the things or be notified when I'm coming on or posting videos, click on that bell. Share with your disc golf friends about it to help build those numbers. So let's get us all taking, let's get us all to continue to get that information. But until next time, keep sharing the Trilogy love with the world. See ya.